country.
Our rights come from nature and God, not from government.
All God asks of you is faithfulness, faithfulness, faithfulness.
Fighting for the family, standing for the church, laboring to return to a moral and biblically based culture.
This is the American Family Association at AFA Today.
To the belly of the news beast in New York City, in the shadow of the Freedom Tower, just north of the most historic cemetery in all of North America at Trinity Church, steps away from the corner of Broadway and Wall Street. Kevin McCullough, glad to be with you in the middle of your day on AFA Today here on AFR Talk. We've got a lot to get to, and some interesting stuff to talk about today. Kevin McCullough is my name. My phone number, 888-589-8840. As always, your phone calls welcomed, encouraged. You're the best part of the conversation when you participate. When you just sit there and you don't call, that's you're not quite as important because you're not speaking. But when you do call, it's great because then we get to chat. I put up a very interesting piece on Facebook last night, and I want to get to it today. It was actually posted by my good friend Dr. Ray Pritchard, but it was not written by him. It was written by another young man, but it came from the desiringgod.org site. And I know that there are those of you that think, well, this is a news talk broadcast. It's supposed to be all about the news, and we're supposed to talk about the news, but I don't think that how we observe our faith and what we think about God is able to be divorced from the news. So you just forgive me when I step on those sensitivities of you that just want headlines all the time. We're not gonna go there because that's not who I am. But we're glad that you're with us. But I do want to make sure that you are aware of some of the headlines that are going on. There's a scandal out of D.C. that I don't know if you've heard about, but it is actually rather significant. At the top of the hour, you may have heard the story about Kathleen Sebelius, but this is in addition to that. You have today the revelations being made known that, and we had known about this for a little bit, that there was some degree of lobbying, marketing, advertising, jockeying for public opinion coming from the Health and Human Services Secretary to advance Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, for those of you that don't like the slang name for it. And it was done inappropriately. It was done unethically across lines that were not supposed to be crossed. Well, interesting that we find this out today. It wasn't just Health and Human Services that were involved in the wrongdoing. It appears now that there was at least one person in the White House also soliciting financial support for a program called Enroll America. Now, Enroll America is one of these nonprofits that's supposed to be out there helping people find their options for health care, not supposed to be party-driven, not supposed to be politically oriented. But the Secretary, Health and Human Services Secretary, Kathleen Sebelius, was officially known to have been out there soliciting financial support for this organization. But now it appears that the White House themselves were also involved in that, and we will find out who and how and when as the days go by. But interesting to note. There's also this story, and I don't do the. A lot of my colleagues in talk radio like to do the global warming stuff, the climate change stuff. They like to do that all the time. Every little tidbit that comes up, I don't begrudge them for it at all. Some people are just more passionate about different things. It's not one of the things that drives me, but every now and then there's stuff that is so important for you to understand about what a big, fat, gigantic hoax this whole thing has been, that I feel like I do need to provide some comment on it. And it was discovered and reported today by the Associated Press that biofuels made and harvested from corn are actually, according to tests that are being run, worse than gasoline for global warming in the short term. So a study shows, challenging the current presidential administration's conclusions that they are a much cleaner oil alternative and will help combat climate change. You heard me correctly. Corn turned into fuel is dirtier and more harmful to the environment than gasoline or petroleum or whatever you want to call it that is used normally. In fact, this is how damaging this study is. There was $500,000 paid for the study, and it was paid for by the federal government, which meant you and I paid for it, but the federal government decided that they wanted to produce this study. Now, why do you think that there was this study commissioned? Why do you think this study was set up? Was it to find out that corn burned dirtier than petroleum? I don't think so. But this study, and it was released on Sunday in the peer-reviewed journal Nature Climate Change. So all the people that contribute to the journal Nature Climate Change, they're all a bunch of geeky biologists, earth climatologists, all those ologists that do all this stuff, in lab coats and study it for hours while the rest of us go out and earn a living. They're in there doing their thing, and they with all their pocket protectors and everything else, they went in and they studied, and they found out that the corn is burning dirtier than the gasoline. So this peer-reviewed. This is the left's worst nightmare because it's intellectual, it's academic, the government paid for it, it was commissioned by the administration. All of the factors that are going into the revelation of what this study found showed that corn being substituted for gasoline in this hoax called man-made global warming is actually a ginormous failure. Capital F, exclamation mark. Why? Because everything they pointed to in this showed that it was worse than burning fossil fuels. Here's how bad it is. The peer-reviewed journal called Nature Climate Change concluded that biofuels made with corn release 7% more greenhouse gases in the early years compared to conventional gasoline. Now, how much of a mess is this? Well, let me explain it to you. First of all, we've been paying farmers in the middle of the country to grow corn, but not to sell it to markets that need it for food because the government wanted to use it for the production of biofuels. So we've already messed up the food chain. In fact, it is fair to say that children in Africa have died because we didn't use the corn that we had to feed people food that we grew. No. We didn't use it to feed people. We used it instead to burn in our cars. Because there was this great big hoax going around going, well, if you burn the corn in the car instead of the gasoline in the car, you'll end up saving the environment. You'll cool the earth down from the global warming, which they don't even call global warming anymore because we're in a cooling cycle for the last 15 years. And nevertheless, you get Al Gore or Barack Obama behind a microphone. Let me be clear. It's in the lockbox. It's proven. The global warming is real. And they always say things like, and anybody who disagrees with us is a big poo-poo head or something like that. They put it in fancier language, but that's the way they talk about it. If you have a differing opinion, they just discount you. They just send you to your room. You can't stay out here. You have to go back. Go away. So anyway. 7% dirtier, messier, more damaging to the atmosphere than the good old gasoline. So I wanted to get those two things in. Let's see. Was something else before I move on to the main phoner? I've got something to end with today. Think of ice cream flavors that you would like to have invented at some point. Now think of the nastiest stuff that you Now, actual food product. But would tomato paste ice cream be a flavor that you'd be all over yourself for? I got to tell you about this before we're done. All right. I want to get to this piece from desiringgod.org. And again, thanks to Ray Pritchard for posting it on his Facebook last night. I posted it on several Facebooks, and it has really touched some people. But it has to do with answering the question of why homosexuality is not like other sins. It was written by a guy named Jonathan Parnell. And I'm curious as to your reaction to this. I'm going to read you some of it, and I would love for you to interact with me on it. 888-340-3373. Wait, before I do that, let me take these ethanol calls, and I'll get to that. Dave in Illinois. Hi, Dave. Welcome. Hold on, Dave. Yeah, let's put it into this, and then we got Dave. Okay, Dave, are you there?
I am here, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you for the call. The corn's dirtier than the gasoline, my friend.
Well, Kevin, from Illinois, of course, and from corn country, and from a wife that works in the ethanol industry, some of your facts aren't quite true.
Dave, this was released this Sunday in the peer-reviewed journal Nature Climate Change. In other words, only climatologists and earth biologists get to write in the journal, and they're all peer-reviewed. It concluded after a $500,000 or $500,000 $500,000 study paid for by the federal government that corn residue fuels burn 7% dirtier than messing up the greenhouse gases, et cetera, than conventional gasoline. Now, how do you have more updated information than a Sunday released peer-reviewed study appearing in the Nature Climate Change?
My facts, my information aren't skewed one way or the other. Really, I mean,
Dave, I'm presenting before you a peer-reviewed study that was done by academics in laboratories where they tested the effect of the two fuels on the Earth's climate. Now, I'm asking you for the credentials of what you're about to tell me that says that this is wrong.
I'm basing mine on studies from the ethanol industry.
Okay. Go right ahead then.
Well, first of all, the majority of the corn that is grown for ethanol production is not a food source corn. That is probably the biggest misnomer that everybody has tried to accentuate. Is it's a total different. It's livestock corn. It's feed corn. It's not used for human consumption.
So the skinny goats in Africa could have eaten it and grown fatter, and then people could have eaten the goat meat.
Well, but you know as well as I do, it's not so much about production as it is about transportation, and it's about who gets their cut out of the transportation cycle and who's going to make money off
you
of it.
came on the show to say that the facts of corn burning dirtier in the atmosphere were wrong, and then you started talking about what type of corn it is. I want to know how you know that the corn burns cleaner than the gasoline.
Kevin, you made the comment that kids were starving in Africa because we're using corn for ethanol. That's the fact that
the lack of corn availability, and there are studies that have been done on this, has contributed to the malnutrition in certain parts of the world. That's not. I didn't make that up. The studies exist to point that out. But here's the interesting part. Everybody that wanted to see this study succeed was not the people conducting it. The people that conducted this wanted this study to be proven. They wanted it to burn cleaner than gas. It didn't come out the way they wanted it. That's why this study's reliable. We'll talk more in just a moment. It's AFA Today on AFR Talk. Stay with us.